Wherever you are, welcome back to another chat with Matt. And today I'm delighted to bring into the chat Joe, one of our partners from Revegy. You may remember a few months ago that I spoke to Mark, the managing director, the CEO of Revegy. Well, today I've got someone equally, if not more important. Joe's the Chief Revenue Officer for Revegy, and we're going to talk about something which is very close to my heart, being a seller, and that's about competitive differentiation. Is competitive differentiation still important in the current way that we sell? Is it important at the end of the sales cycle or all the way through? Well, that's what we're going to find out. And I'm going to get Joe's perspective on that, and we're going to kick that around a bit on this chat today. So as we always start off with, Joe, how are you?
Doing well. Thank you. Thank you for having me on today. I appreciate the opportunity to jump in and have this conversation, especially around the competitive differentiation. It's a big topic for us over here.
It's a huge thing. And actually, sometimes we don't give enough focus to what the competition are doing. We don't know how to, outperform, outmaneuver the competition because we're not thinking about them. We're thinking too much about us. So tell me from your perspective, why is it still important? If you think about competitive differentiation in the professional selling world, the modern professional selling world, why do you think that's so important?
Realistically, as we're in this space of digital selling and this boom, especially in the marketing and sales technology space, and just in general in tech, it becomes important because every day and every week, more and more organizations are cropping up all over the place, whether it's a point solution, full platform, custom solution, or even just a consulting organization that's saying they can solve your digital transformation needs, your sales needs, marketing needs. If you're not differentiating from the very beginning so that you can be noticed by the buyers that are out there looking for a solution, you're going to get lost in the shuffle. You're going to get lost in the dozens of people that are out there, or be used as column fodder on the back end for an RFP or an RFI, and just kind of be layered in there for a pricing conversation. That's about it. So really differentiating yourself in terms of what you can offer, how you're going to deliver it, and the level of partnership you're going to engage your customers in. That's kind of critical there for me.
And therein sounds like the golden egg of sales, doesn't it? When you have built those relationships up where we know sometimes you can't avoid the RFP because it's part of the company policy, but you can help inform the RFP, or better still, you can help write the RFP, right?
Yes.
How do you help with that? So give me a sense of, from your experience, when we're at that very early stage of the sales cycle, and include a little bit about your technology in here, if you will, as well. Yeah. How do you help generate that level of relationship and insight that means that they trust you to do that for them or with them?
Yeah, and I hate selling from the stage, but I will do that a little bit now. But for Revegy, so part of what we do is really focusing around the interactions with the people, that people-to-people or human connection, that element of selling, which, as we're seeing now, 80% of what's being done in terms of research, the buying cycle, all of that, is prior to even engaging a salesperson at a vendor. So that's a big issue there. But for Revegy, utilizing relationship mapping in a visual format, understanding who the key stakeholders are, how they're driving influence across an organization, not just from an organizational structure, but that true influence structure, and attaching those folks to a strategy map. So their motivations, their key drivers, what's keeping them up at night. That really allows us to see who those influential folks are, who those people pulling the strings behind the curtain are, and understand who we should engage. So for me, it's really about building those relationships very early on so you can be introduced into that RFI, if you can, right? Or that early RFP process, and help define that. And the critical aspect here is not going in and selling. It's offering them gives, thought leadership, approaches to drive, in our case, account planning, opportunity execution, or guided selling, just giving that to them. So you're recognized as that trusted advisor and being far more consultative than you are salesy. And if you can do that properly, they will then bring you in to provide that expertise that you should be having and allow your best practices into their RFI or RFP build. So now it doesn't become about what Revegy can do or what Mentor Group can do. It's what this organization needs to specifically do for their unique case. And we get to layer in some key features and functionalities, a little bit of landmines for the competition, and some other elements in those RFIs early on, which is phenomenal. And for me, that's the only way to go about an RFP. I've seen it, and God, 99 out of 100 you'll lose, which is never fun because they're very, very long and arduous. So you really need to be involved up front.
There's some key things that you dropped into the chat there, Joe, that I'm passionate about. One is that sales is still about relationships. Yes, you need to bring insight. Buyers are expecting us to come into these conversations with an opinion. That's what builds credibility. That's what builds trust, particularly when it's focused on them, not us. Mm-hmm. So all of that stuff that you're talking about, people buy from people, they do, but you've got to be credible and you've got to have an opinion on things as well. And I think it's funny when you said, I don't like to sell from the stage. Sometimes we should also be passionate and proud about what we do, because it's always about the customer. It's always about the outcome we're enabling our customers to do. So if they're not very good at building those relationships, or they're not great at collecting those insights, and we can provide that value to them, then why shouldn't we talk about it?
No, that's very true. And a lot of this comes down to the fact that customers aren't just looking for you to be everything they need, or they think that they need. Let me, specify that. Or to just say yes to all of their requirements. I find the most joy in telling customers no, and saying, look, I understand that you believe you need X, Y, and Z. Here's why you're thinking about it incorrectly. Here's what best practices state. Now, here's kind of that middle ground of how we should approach this, so you're getting the most value, the most bang for your buck, and reaching that outcome that you're attempting to. And even when they're starting to build an RFI or an RFP, they're going and asking 50 other folks in the organization what they need. And you're going to come back with 50 sets of requirements. And distilling that down to a true core set is very difficult. So I think one of the most important things here in terms of differentiating is making sure that you're confident and comfortable with your expertise, and in telling customers no, and providing them the data to back up why you're giving them that answer.
And Joe, when you give an example there, or you give an expression there where you've said no to the customer, maybe it's not the right time, or they haven't thought it through well enough. How have customers reacted when you've almost tried to qualify out in a way?
Yeah, it's kind of 50-50. Some of them will react very positively, especially if they are collecting a lot of different sets of requirements from different people, because it helps them focus how they're going to drive toward that outcome and what their strategy is going to be to get there. Others, when it's large organizations who have put a great deal of effort into building their requirements lists, driving an RFP, and you're questioning those requirements or questioning their RFP questions, they don't like it. And it disqualifies you fairly early on. But for me, I would rather be disqualified and hear no from a customer or have that pushback early than waste my time. Because if they're going to be difficult up front and believe that they are the experts in what they're asking you to do, or asking a set of vendors to do, then it's going to be a lose-lose situation, or a very tumultuous partnership long-term.
So give us we always look for top tips in these chats. If you're listening and watching, we try to give you a bit of insight or marginal gain that's going to help you. So give me the Joe's one or two top tips that you must follow to make sure you can competitively differentiate your proposition.
Yes. All right. So number one, don't create battle cards and leave them there. I've seen massive failures with battle cards because you look at them and then you start to look at the last time they were edited. They're 2, 3, 4 years old. They're not being kept up to date. Similar to an account plan, how we turn it into an operationalized evergreen document, that is how your battle cards need to be. And it cannot be just marketing that influences that. It needs to be marketing, sales, customer success, and product that have their fingerprints on those documents. So not only do you know how you're differentiating, but you know why from a technology perspective, and from a success perspective, you know how you're going to help your customer get there, or your prospect get there faster than your competitor. So that's going to be one piece there. And the second would be, don't be afraid to call out shortcomings in your competitors or their big highlights, their big successes. If you can be confident in your ability to compete against, so we compete with a number of point solutions and platforms. If you can be confident that you can call out their successes and their high points of their platforms, still be competitive and showcase why, although this might be their bright spot, there's 5 or 6 other areas where we shine brighter, that's critical. It shows a level of honesty that you're not trying to pull the wool over your customers or your prospects' eyes. You're being very honest and very upfront about what each solution does best and how you can help your customer get to where they need to go. And again, that's the thought leadership piece there. And it's just having that level of confidence in your expertise and the best practices.
Yeah, and in my experience, I would say don't give too many options.
Yes.
Because once you start getting above 3, the human brain can't always process that, and the customer often chooses to do nothing at all.
Yes, that's one of our biggest competitors is always the status quo or, good enough. And it's really difficult to offset good enough when that comes with a $0 cost to it.
Yeah, that is very true. Very true. So we're gonna for a minute, we're gonna sell from the stage again. Okay, because both you and I are really happy to announce that we're going to be working together more, Revegy and Mentor. It's a big partnership. Just in 30 seconds, and I'll try and do the same. What does your side of the partnership bring to the customer?
Yeah, absolutely. So we bring the ability to create an evergreen account plan and opportunity execution platform. This is going to be purpose-built for all of your needs for strategic accounts you're hunting into, your tier 1s, tier 2s, as well as an opportunity or guided selling flow that's going to allow you to bring your new account executives up to speed very quickly, give them that what good looks like for your organization in terms of how they're going to sell, and even level set your more tenured sales folks into what they need to be doing to continually articulate value, increase velocity, and increase the value of their opportunities around the table. So really that full spectrum of sales execution is what Revegy is all about.
And working with you, what we bring is the coaching angle. So making sure your first, second line and above managers are able to coach to all the data and analytics that you create within the platform, and then have the right kind of conversations with salespeople to drive all the activities that are going to give you a sustainable sales performance. So working together, we're excited about it because it's just going to mean end to end from opportunity identification through account planning all the way through to close and driving consumption. We can help customers be more successful. So it's exciting times.
Oh, it is. I would say the best way that I could kind of sum up our partnership together is there's 3 elements to every organization: the people, the process, and the technology. Our people we're selling into, those buyers, they're bringing the people element of it. You are helping to bring the process element, and we are helping to bring the technology element. And together, those 3 focal points are going to elevate the success and growth of any organization that we walk into hand in hand.
And I think one thing that is really important is, and hopefully you're hearing this through the chat if you're watching and listening, is the focus is always on the customer. So what we know is the solution's never the same for 2 customers. So that upfront due diligence to make sure that we understand what's going on is something that we're all deeply passionate about. So do that well, you understand the outcomes, you understand how you build the solution, you get the results for the long term.
Exactly. And that's what it's all about.
100%. So Joe, before we finish off, tell us a bit about you. What do you do when you're not working for Revegy?
So although I'm constantly working for Revegy and thinking about this, because as you said, this is kind of a passion for me, right? This is I don't mind being up early and going to bed late doing this type of stuff, but do have 2 kids, 2 sons, 2 and 6 years old. So do a lot with them. And then I do some competitive weightlifting and bodybuilding in my downtime, which is very little of, but got to keep the mind and body strong, right? So focus a little bit on that there.
So you're competitively differentiating in your outside life as well, it would be fair to say. Is there a synergy then, before we wrap up, is there a synergy between what you have to do in the gym to outmaneuver I guess you have competitors in what you do? Is there a synergy between that and work?
There really is. And there's going to be really 2 main pieces of there. The work ethic and consistency that goes along with trying to continually better your process and your technology, as we do with Revegy and with our clients. And the second element is the focus on the smaller kind of invisible pieces that are there. So account planning, lots of moving parts, lots of moving pieces, opportunity execution, the same thing. It's the same as the human body. There's all of the different muscles and the connections of the different areas that if you try to work one too hard, it's going to look odd or it's not going to work as well. You need to bring all of those elements up together and focus across the board on how to improve yourself overall. It's the same thing that companies have to do with their sales execution process. and their technology. It has to be consistently being 1% better every day, driving the entire process and program up level by level, not one piece versus another. That's how you run into trouble and you end up upside down.
Great example. So if you're listening and watching this, my question or my challenge to you is a simple one. What's your level of fitness like in terms of your competitive differentiation, based on what Joe was just saying there? Have you got everything working in a symbiotic way or not? Have you got gaps in your account planning capability? Have you got gaps in your relationship mapping? Whatever it may be, if there's a gap there, it's absolutely fine until the point that you lose a deal. You can do something with it. So always good to take a step back, think, organize, proceed, consider what you could do differently to be more successful, to outmaneuver the competition, to win more often. And hopefully you've taken some those golden nuggets from Joe today that will help you moving forward. Joe, it's been a pleasure. I really appreciate you taking the time out.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. I hope to do another one of these with you in the near future.
Absolutely right. And for everybody else watching and listening, stay safe. Thank you for taking the time out. See you soon again on another chat with Matt. All the best.
Thank you all.